Hey, it's Dr. Charshan. I wanted to tell you about plantar fasciitis, a common condition we see in our office. I'm personally alarmed at the amount of people that are being given treatments that couldn't possibly work. And the reason is because the people who are treating them don't really understand the condition or why it occurs. I have somebody here, one of our staff members, that's going to help me in explaining it to you and explain it in a way that makes sense, so when you see somebody who's going to go ahead and treat you for the condition, you'll at least understand what you're suffering from, why you're suffering from it, and if the treatment makes any sense at all. Plantar fasciitis, really what it is, or what it's described as, it's an inflammation of the plantar fascia, which is on the bottom of the foot. But what really happens is the entire leg tightens up. Now, there's a number of different mechanisms that do this, but typically what ends up happening is the person will be slamming their foot in the ground. The way you can tell this is if you put them on a treadmill, typically you're going to hear a lot of banging. Or up on the second floor of your house, they're the ones who are feeling like they're pouncing on the ground as they're walking around because they're hitting the ground really, really hard. So basically, it's like me doing this. Now, if I did this for hours at a time, really, really hard into her shoulder, it's going to get kind of sore. Do you think your shoulder would get sore, Connie?
Big time.
Okay. So what are some of the solutions that are usually done? Well, some of the solutions that people get are, oh, put a heel cup in there. So let's put a heel cup in there. All right. So as you can see, it probably buffers the impact, but eventually it's going to really start bothering her again. So if I do that, eventually your shoulders are going to continue to get sore. So how does that relate to the foot? Well, when you're taking steps and you're slamming your foot in the ground, eventually it's going to get as sore as the shoulder would get. So let's go ahead and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and just inject your shoulder. Or in the case of this, inject your foot. So let's go ahead and inject your foot. Many people who have had plantar fasciitis or heel pain have had their feet injected or parts of their feet injected, and they may feel better. So what ends up happening is now we've just injected her area of pain, and she's feeling better. But the problem is she goes out of that office, and guess what? Doing this again. So wouldn't you feel better if I stopped doing this?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this gives you a basic understanding of what plantar fasciitis is, because if you're slamming your feet into the ground, and if I go ahead and do stuff to it, I'm not really helping you. All I'm doing is making the problem more chronic. Now, there's a number of different reasons why somebody would have plantar fasciitis. The biggest has to do with the way we walk. And one of the things that I explain to people is if you're walking asymmetrically, and many of us do because that's the way we're built, one of the easiest ways to go ahead and get that to feel better is to give you an insert. Now, typically an insert comes in the form of an orthotic. Here's an example of an off-the-shelf. Here's an example of a custom orthotic. The difference being is that this I could just hand to you. And as a physician, I have to be careful as to which one I give you because I want to make sure that you get the right effect. It's not the same as going into a store and just picking one off the rack. I'm assessing what your body mechanics are like and which one is right for you. Unfortunately, with people with really flat feet, very few of these are really appropriate for them, and a custom device might be more appropriate, or if you're finding that every 3 months you're destroying these, a custom insert is going to make much more sense financially to you. So this is one of the solutions that'll level your hips out, because if your pelvis is all distorted, what's going to happen is you're going to slam your feet into the ground. Now, the way we treat plantar fasciitis is what's commonly treated is the bottom of the foot. Now, you'll hear anything from, hey, I can give you this device that'll stretch your calf out at night. But the problem, as you can see, has nothing to do with stretching the calf out, because the calf is merely the symptom, and the same thing with the bottom of the foot in the plantar fascia. So the way you solve it, because it really has to do with the way you walk, is number one, you use an insert to level the hips out. That redistributes the force from the hips to the ground. If you're distorted in your hips, which most people are who suffer from this condition, you're not going to feel better, and you're not going to really get better, because if that doesn't feel right, what ends up happening is something else isn't going to feel right. So maybe if you get the foot treated, now your knee starts to hurt, or now you're getting hip pain. Why not just treat the mechanism behind it and solve the problem correctly? That's where we come in. The way we do it is, first we level out the hips with something like an orthotic. The second thing that we would do is we would use something called myofascial release to break up restrictions and adhesions that have been caused by years and years of accommodating to poor body mechanics. And then the third thing we would do is we would address what's going on to the hip and the back, because most people don't realize this, but movement is more like a slinky than different parts going bad. If we understand what's going bad, I can explain it to you in English and I can help you solve the problem. But that's how we treat plantar fasciitis in our office. We get great results. Give us a call, allow us to help you.